I wanted to move on to Liverpool, really, because there's a super chat here that says, who do you think is the best replacement for Mane? So I suppose my first question would be, do you expect Mane 100% to leave? And what type of players are Liverpool looking at to replace him?
I can't say 100% leave because Liverpool want Mane to stay. They want him to see out the next year. And the only way you'll change their mind on that is to make an offer that is deemed acceptable. And I think the first talk that was of like £25 million, and like Liverpool were like, if that's an offer that's going to come in for Sadio Mane, then we can tell you that will be rejected. So if Bayern Munich wants Sadio Mane, which they do, if Sadio Mane wants to move on from Liverpool, which I believe he does, I think it'll probably take a transfer in the region of £35 million, something like that, 35 to 40 million pound. I think will get you Mane at this point. It seems like he's made his mind up, and I think it's really interesting, and it's a bit of a plot twist now for Liverpool in terms of like this pursuit of Man City, this pursuit of the biggest trophies in the game. You know, however good Liverpool have been, like the standard they've been playing, which has been ridiculously high, they don't have the trophies to back it up that most teams would have done in an era of such football dominance. Like, because they've had the dominance on the field, but the trophy cabinet doesn't reflect it at all. You know, parading around yesterday with the FA Cup and Carabao Cup ain't quite what they had in mind, is it? Like that's not the two that they wanted to be holding out. This was supposed to be a team that won the quadruple. And Jurgen Klopp's waving around the Carabao Cup. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to be professional, and the fan in me is coming out. I'm very sorry. Crack on. Sorry.
I thought your Wi-Fi had cut out, mate. I was giving you the benefit of the doubt there. But yeah, so they've got a dilemma, and obviously they've got a process in place whereby they've been slowly transitioning away from Salah, Mane, and Firmino. They've made a good job of it too. Luis Diaz, unbelievable signing. Diogo Jota came in brilliantly into that team and has shown he can make his mark. Is that enough to live with if Mane is gone? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it is. And if you're talking about replacements, then where do they turn? I mean, we talked about Nkunku already. Darwin Núñez is somebody they've been linked with before. Ousmane Dembele we talked about too, somebody linked with Liverpool before. You want to look at a few left field ones. Well, what about Saka at Arsenal? They love Saka. What about if they were to put in a proposal to him and say, come and be part of this? What about if they were to turn to Gnabry at Bayern, say, okay, so if Lewandowski is leaving to go to Barcelona, if Sadio Mane is coming there, how about Gnabry comes into Liverpool? There are some opportunities there. I mean, it's interesting. A couple of months ago, I was thinking to myself, why have Liverpool never gone for Son? Like Son is one of, I don't really see him ever playing anywhere else apart from Tottenham, but I was like, he would have done well at Liverpool. And that won't happen now. Like if Tottenham hadn't made the Champions League, I think that there would have been a possibility we'd be talking about Son joining Liverpool. I don't really see it now. I think he's happy. He loves where he is, and I think he'll remain part of that project. So it's very difficult to add to that dynamic, and you've got to decide what you want. Ultimately, the thing you're going to miss with Mane isn't necessarily his style of play, it's his impact. It's the number of goals and the timing of his goals. Like the moments that Mane comes up, he usually turns up big time. And when Salah drops off, Mane usually steps up. So that's what Liverpool will have to replace if he does indeed leave. And it does look like he probably will. So I don't think Liverpool were necessarily thinking this was going to happen. And if it was going to happen, I think they thought that Salah might be the one that goes. And now you're like, oh, which one would we have preferred? It might have been Salah, you know?
Well, it's an interesting point you make there. And I think from my point of view, as a rival looking at this, Mane leaving is good. It's good news. Even though he's getting towards the end of his career, it's good news because that front three were potent. The second half of the season has been great. But a lot of Liverpool fans spoke after the defeat on Saturday that this season's a failure because we missed out on the two main trophies. That this era, it's not the Pep Klopp era, it's the Pep era where Klopp's won a couple of the big trophies in that time. They haven't won enough trophies for how brilliant on the football pitch this team has been. And the thing for Liverpool fans is you can wait another 3-4 years. Okay, well, we could do it in the next 3 years. We could do it in the next 10 years. Players don't have the same time and patience that fans will have, because in 4 or 5 years' time, a lot of these guys now who are at their peak at Liverpool will retire from football. So you've got to go and win it now. And I think Mane might look at it that I'm going to Bayern Munich, that every year have a chance of Champions League success. But I'll win some league titles. We win everything. It's a dominant league. It will probably prolong his career a little bit as well, because it isn't like you're playing with the same level of intensity, 38 games a season that you do in the Premier League. And the amount of players that come from the Bundesliga that tell us that is where you get that proof from. I think it's a good move for him, but it's all about what Liverpool do to replace him for me, because I spoke last night about, I did a video like Harry Kane to replace Mane. Very open in the video that this was not a transfer rumor, although some guys from the Anfield Wrap who are fairly well connected to Liverpool have said there's been talks to Harry Kane. But I've made the point and I stand by it. Now, this doesn't mean it's a realistic thing or it's going to happen, but they should be breaking the bank to sign someone like a Harry Kane, because not only do they need a replacement for Firmino and for Mane, but they need to respond to what Man City are doing with Haaland, as I said earlier on on this podcast, because if they don't, they're not winning the league next year either. Or maybe the year after that. And that's not even being disrespectful. They'll still be a brilliant team. They'll still accumulate 90-odd points. They'll still do well in cup competitions. But I just think you look at City this year, they didn't have a prolific goal scorer and they still won the league. You throw one into that. They also linked, a lot of people are asking about Cucurella. Again, that would just increase the quality again in their team. Yeah. I just sort of feel like for Liverpool, it's almost this case of you don't want to suddenly just peter out from challenging. You need to respond now. And how you respond, I know Liverpool fans have lived off this "we don't buy superstar" thing, but they tried to sign Kylian Mbappe. According to Mbappe, he said it, not me. The Tchouaméni stuff's out there. They've got to do something. They've got to put a big money offer down for someone who can come in and make them be able to go toe to toe with City again next year. That's my take on it. Anyway, I think they need to do that as opposed to but.